I found my wife's secret texts. She was meeting someone behind my back. The most painful betrayals aren't always revealed through dramatic confrontations or obvious signs of guilt. Sometimes they're discovered through the most ordinary moments, when you're simply trying to help your spouse with something routine and stumble upon evidence that shatters everything you believed about your marriage. Modern technology has made it easier than ever to maintain secret relationships, but it's also created digital trails that can expose deception in ways that leave no room for doubt or explanation. Text messages have become the primary method of communication for most relationships, both legitimate and illicit. They're private, immediate, and create a permanent record of conversations that reveal not just what people are saying to each other, but how they really feel, what they're planning, and what they're hiding from their partners. When someone is conducting a secret relationship, their phone becomes both their lifeline to that forbidden connection and potentially the evidence that destroys their marriage. I'm Mark, 29 years old, and I work as a software engineer for a tech company in Austin. My wife Jessica and I have been married for 4 years, together for 6. She's 27 and works as a marketing specialist for a local healthcare startup. We live in a modern apartment complex, share a passion for hiking and craft beer, and what I thought was an honest, transparent marriage built on open communication and mutual trust. Jessica had always been someone who valued her privacy with her phone and personal devices, which I'd always respected as healthy boundaries in our relationship. She wasn't secretive in a suspicious way, just someone who liked to keep her personal communications and social media interactions separate from our shared activities, which seemed perfectly reasonable and mature. Over the past 2 months, I'd noticed that Jessica had become increasingly protective of her phone. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, sleep with it face down on her nightstand, and seemed to receive more text messages than usual, especially during evening hours when we were typically relaxing together at home. When I'd casually ask who was texting her so frequently, Jessica would give vague responses like, "Just work stuff," or "My sister going through drama with her boyfriend." The explanations seemed plausible enough that I didn't think much about them, though I did notice she never shared the details of these conversations the way she used to when discussing work situations or family issues. Last Friday evening, Jessica was in the shower when her phone, which was charging on the kitchen counter, started buzzing repeatedly with incoming text messages. The screen kept lighting up with notification previews, and while I wasn't intentionally trying to read her messages, the repeated buzzing made it impossible to ignore. What I saw in the notification previews immediately caught my attention. The messages were from someone named Alex, with a contact photo I didn't recognize, and the preview text included phrases like, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow," and "Thinking about last night." I stood in the kitchen listening to the shower running and staring at Jessica's phone as more messages came in from this Alex person. The tone of the messages, even from the brief previews visible on the lock screen, seemed far too intimate and personal for a work colleague or casual friend. When Jessica finished her shower and came to retrieve her phone, I decided to ask directly about the messages I'd seen. "Who's Alex?" I asked as casually as possible. "They've been texting you a lot this evening." Jessica's reaction was immediate and telling. Her face flushed. She quickly grabbed her phone and held it against her chest, and she seemed to struggle to formulate a response. "Alex is someone from work," she said, but her voice had a strained quality I'd never heard before. "We're collaborating on a marketing campaign for a new client." The messages seemed pretty personal for work collaboration, I said, still trying to keep my tone conversational rather than accusatory. "We've become friends through working together," Jessica replied, but she wouldn't make eye contact and was clearly uncomfortable with the conversation. That weekend, I couldn't stop thinking about Jessica's reaction to my questions about Alex and the intimate tone of the message previews I'd seen. Something about the situation felt wrong, but I didn't have enough information to understand what was really happening. On Sunday afternoon, while Jessica was out grocery shopping, I made a decision that I knew violated her privacy but felt necessary given my growing concerns about her secretive behavior. I knew her phone passcode because we'd always been open about our devices, but we'd never felt the need to check each other's messages before. I opened Jessica's phone and went directly to her text message conversations. What I found was far worse than I'd imagined. The message thread with Alex contained months of increasingly intimate conversations that had clearly evolved from workplace discussions to personal sharing to explicitly romantic and sexual communication. The messages revealed that Jessica had been meeting this person regularly for what started as coffee meetings and had progressed to intimate encounters at hotels and other locations. "I can't stop thinking about Thursday afternoon at the Marriott," read one message from Alex. "You're incredible, and I hate that we have to keep this secret." Jessica Jessica's responses were equally intimate and revealed that she was deeply emotionally involved with this person. Being with you feels more real than anything else in my life right now. I wish we could just be together openly. As I scrolled through weeks of messages, I found detailed planning for their meetings, expressions of love and desire, and conversations about the challenges of maintaining their relationship while Jessica was married to me. They'd been meeting during Jessica's lunch breaks, after work, and on weekends when she told me she was running errands or meeting friends. Mark suspects something Jessica had written in a recent message. He asked about your texts on Friday. We need to be more careful about when and how we communicate. Maybe it's time for you to make a decision about what you really want, Alex had replied. I'm tired of being your secret, and you deserve to be happy. The messages also revealed that Alex was encouraging Jessica to leave our marriage and that they'd been discussing the possibility of moving in together. Their relationship had progressed far beyond a casual affair. They were making long-term plans that involved ending my marriage and building a future together. I sat in our living room reading through months of intimate communications between my wife and someone else, feeling like I was watching the destruction of my marriage unfold in real time through text message conversations that had been happening parallel to our daily life together. The most devastating messages were the ones where Jessica expressed frustration with our marriage and described feeling trapped in a relationship that had become routine and unsatisfying. She'd been sharing intimate details about our personal life with Alex and comparing our marriage unfavorably to the excitement and passion of her secret relationship. Mark is a good person, but we've grown apart, she'd written. What we have feels like what you do because it's expected, not because it's what makes you feel alive. When Jessica returned from grocery shopping, I was still sitting in the living room with her phone in my hands. She walked in carrying shopping bags and immediately noticed what I was holding. Mark, she said, dropping the bags and moving toward me. What are you doing with my phone? Reading about your relationship with Alex, I said, holding up the device so she could see the message thread displayed on the screen. The color drained from Jessica's face, and she sat down heavily in the chair across from me. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. How long? I finally asked. 3 months, Jessica whispered. It started as just friendly conversations at work, but it developed into something more. Something more, I repeated. Jessica, you've been telling this person you love them and planning a future together. You've been meeting them at hotels and lying to me about where you were. This isn't something more. This is a complete relationship that you've been hiding while pretending to be committed to our marriage. The conversation that followed was the most difficult of my life. Jessica admitted that she'd been emotionally disconnected from our marriage for months before meeting Alex, but instead of discussing her feelings with me, she'd sought connection outside our relationship and allowed it to develop into a comprehensive affair. I didn't plan for it to happen this way, she said, but Alex understands parts of me that I feel like I've lost in our marriage. Being with them makes me feel like myself again in ways I'd forgotten were possible. Then why didn't you talk to me about feeling disconnected? I asked. Why did you choose to start a secret relationship instead of working on our marriage? Jessica struggled to answer that question in a way that made any sense. She'd chosen the excitement of a forbidden relationship over the work required to address problems in our marriage, and now she was faced with the consequences of that choice. When I asked Jessica whether she wanted to try to save our marriage or continue her relationship with Alex, she initially claimed she wanted to end the affair and work on rebuilding our trust. But the text messages I'd read revealed that she'd already been planning a future with Alex and had described our marriage as something she felt trapped in rather than committed to. The messages show you discussing leaving me and moving in with Alex, I pointed out. You've been telling them you love them and planning a life together. Those aren't the actions of someone who's committed to their marriage. Over the following weeks, we attempted marriage counseling, but the sessions revealed that Jessica's affair had been facilitated by her fundamental dissatisfaction with what she perceived as the routine nature of our relationship. Instead of addressing these concerns directly with me, she'd sought excitement and validation through a secret relationship that had become more important to her than our marriage. I felt like we'd become roommates instead of romantic partners, Jessica said during counseling. Meeting Alex reminded me what it felt like to have someone be genuinely excited to see me and interested in getting to know me better. The counselor helped us understand that all long-term relationships require ongoing effort to maintain connection and excitement, but that conducting a secret affair while remaining in a marriage represents a fundamental betrayal of the trust and commitment that make partnerships sustainable. Despite our efforts in counseling, I couldn't rebuild trust with someone who'd been systematically deceiving me while conducting an intimate relationship with someone else for months. The text messages had revealed not just the affair itself, but Jessica's willingness to lie about her activities, share intimate details of our marriage with another person, and plan a future that didn't include me while maintaining the pretense of working on our relationship. We separated 4 months later and divorced 6 months after that. Jessica's relationship with Alex continued after our separation, and according to mutual friends, they moved in together shortly after our divorce was was finalized. Looking back on the experience, I realized that Jessica's increasing protectiveness of her phone had been a clear sign that she was hiding something significant. The frequent text messages, the secretive behavior, and her defensive responses to casual questions about her communications were all indicators that she was maintaining a relationship she knew would damage our marriage if discovered. The text messages I found that Friday evening provided undeniable evidence of Jessica's affair, but they also revealed the extent to which she'd been living a double life while maintaining the daily pretense of being a committed wife. The digital trail of their relationship showed months of systematic deception that would have been impossible to explain away or minimize. I'm in a relationship now with someone who values transparency about communications and doesn't treat her phone like a classified document. We've discussed the importance of maintaining appropriate boundaries in professional relationships and being honest about connections that might evolve beyond casual friendship. The most important lesson I learned is that modern technology creates permanent records of our communications and relationships, making it nearly impossible to maintain truly secret connections without leaving evidence. When someone becomes unusually protective of their phone or defensive about their text messages, it's often because they're hiding communications that would damage their primary relationship if discovered. That Friday evening, when Jessica's phone kept buzzing with messages from Alex, taught me that sometimes the most devastating discoveries happen through the most ordinary circumstances. I hadn't been trying to spy on my wife or catch her in deception. I'd simply noticed repeated text notifications and asked a casual question that revealed months of lies and betrayal hidden in her device. The secret text showed me that Jessica had been sharing a level of intimacy and emotional connection with someone else that she'd stopped sharing with me, and that our marriage had become something she was enduring rather than choosing to invest in and improve.